And welcome again to Cottage Talk. I am Russ Goldman. Joining me right now is Suhail and Tony Gold. I've entitled this is our post-match show. It's the hope that kills you. So we're going to be looking back at Fulham's 3-2 loss at the very end to Manchester United. Very difficult match to lose. We'll talk about that. And we'll also talk about the comeback, all to do with that. But we also have to talk about the end of the January transfer window. Is it the hope that kills you there too? There's too much to get to, and we've got a lot of topics I'm going to be throwing at my co-host. This should be a lot of fun and maybe therapeutic. We'll just leave it at that. But let's get to it. Mr. Gold, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm really good, Russ. Thank you, and great to see you guys. And looking forward to getting into it.
I'm looking forward to getting into it, and thank you so much for doing this. Suhail, how you doing?
Oh, great. Very good, Russ. And you picked me for a very controversial show. I can sense it already.
Well, we needed a judge, so we have a judge. So I think it's apropos that we have you on for this particular show. So let's start here. Like I said, I've got a lot of topics for us, but I just want to start by just giving opening thoughts on the loss yesterday. Let's start there. Tony, you and I talked about after the match. It's not like I haven't seen this movie before. It's just still a movie that I've seen many times playing Manchester United. They seem to get that late goal to beat Fulham. It's happened more often than not. We did it to them once, but it happens more often than not to Fulham. Just give me your thoughts a day later.
You know how many times, Suhail, you and I have been on that roller coaster, the ups and downs. You know, 1 minute you are dancing and singing and jumping out of your chair and going absolutely mental because you've just seen one of the greatest goals scored and you're thinking you're leaving Old Trafford with a point. And then 46 seconds later, your draw's on the floor and you're just thinking, what the hell have I just seen? And I can't believe it. But that's football. That's the emotion of the game that we all love. It's the only sport in the world that gives you those highs and lows. Look, in short, because I know there's a lot to talk about, I thought that our overall team performance yesterday, I thought Fulham showed a lot of grit, great energy at times, particularly in the second half. But unfortunately, as usual, they were ultimately undone by some ridiculously poor defensive lapses and poor control at key moments in the game. Obviously, I thought we responded really well, having gone 2-0 down. And we looked capable at that point of getting that point in that crazy 6-minute period. But structural vulnerabilities in our back four, which have been ever present and continue to haunt us, and they are big problems for us. And we've got problems in transitions that cost us yesterday effectively, and it's cost us quite a few points this season. And you know, it's something that Marco Silva needs to address. It's as simple as that. I'm sick of talking about our back four and making excuses for players and everything else. The bottom line is we need 3 new defenders in that back four if we've got any aspirations of seriously moving forward as a football club, getting into Europe and being a strong powerhouse in the sort of top 10 area. That's what I believe. I've seen enough now to really realise that some of these players are just not at the level that we need to be. Going forward, I think Marco Silva has done really well. He's got us very well organised. We've got some great flair now. We've got some players that can win you football matches. But there's no point in having those players if you can't do the basics defensively. And that is what is killing us at the moment.
Well, when you look at it, Tony, we'll go through the match. And the second half of the show, we'll go into more details in the match. But you and I talked about after the match, and if you look at the goals, you look at the situations, defensively, that could be Fulham's downfall. And actually, that's one of our talking points. You're reading my mind. We'll talk about that coming up soon. But I want to go to Suhail. Just get your opening thoughts, Suhail. Like I said, we've seen this too many times. We know what it's like, but it still hurts every single time when you get hit like that.
Yeah, it was a gut punch yesterday, particularly after the comeback. To come back from 2-0 down to pull it 2-2, magnificent equalizer as well. It was just an absolutely bolt from the blue. Just took everyone by surprise, particularly the commentators that I was watching. To me, it was a huge gut punch. And But I spoke to you yesterday, Ross, and I was really quite down. But after I was speaking to you, I just thought, you know what? You look at it in retrospect, we were at Old Trafford. A lot of people were thinking, wow, this might be a free hit. I don't know. I think I went into it a bit more confident. But when the match ended, I was down. And then thinking about it afterwards, I thought, you know what? And I agree with Tony to an extent about the defensive frailties, but we played very well. We gave them, this is a team that had beaten Arsenal and Man City. We gave them a real tough game. And when we equalized, the way their heads dropped, it was quite.
Oh, I thought we were going to go on and win.
Everyone did. Everyone thought there's going to be one winner in this, and it's us. And of course, guess what happens? Yeah. So it was. I'm not sure I agree with Tony about the entire defense being at fault yesterday. There were definitely lapses, and we'll talk about them. But and the third goal was down to one player, in my view. But anyway, it was a gut punch. But I'm after the Goldman therapy that I got yesterday. I'm back on track for the. I think we will do okay for the rest of the season.
Okay, well, I did give you a little Goldman therapy. I did mention that even after what happened, I was feeling not upbeat, but I was feeling a little bit better. Just really think about it. Also talking to Tony about the performance to go along with the actual defensive issues that we'll talk about. It was kind of the combination, but when you look at it, and Suhail, it's something that you said to me when I look back. How many times, and I can go far back to you go to Old Trafford and you're expecting to lose, and you said it's a free hit, Russ, in the past. It's not a free hit anymore. I was thinking going into it, I predicted a victory, and I'm thinking, I was serious about it, and I'm thinking the players had that mentality too. They weren't that far away. The confidence was there. It just didn't go their way, and there are issues that go along with it. But they're not that far away from a team like Manchester United. Manchester United have better players, let's be honest, overall. But Fulham are not far off. And I think there's just a different mindset. And I think it also hits us a little bit. I went into it thinking it differently. So I was not as downtrodden as maybe in the past I would have been. Because they were in that until the very end. Well, I guess that's our wake-up call from you, Suhail.
No, sorry, I've got to turn my phone off. But
that's okay.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you, Ross. It was the thing that really got me yesterday was now when we go 1 or 2-0 down, I don't turn off the TV and go upstairs and forget it. I actually think, you know what? Geez, we can come back. The amount of times we've come back. We're always there. We're always in the game, and they should have better players than us, Ross. They spent about £1 billion, in the last 18 months. So they should have better players. But I think we more than matched them, and I think it was a competitive game. It was a well-deserved point that we were going to get, and we just threw it away.
Absolutely, and that's the way I look at it. They threw it away, and like I said, we're going to go into more detail in probably about a half hour, but we have a lot to get to before we get there. And now we're going to entering the Cottage Talk talking points. And these are talking points, not just takeaways from the match, but we also have to talk about the end of the transfer window and what it ultimately means for Fulham Football Club. Okay, so let's get there. And just so you guys know, I will be asking you overall about the window, but I want to do it individually. So let's start in order of when things happen. So, Tony, I'll go to you first. I want to talk about Oscar Bob. This is a player in December. When I saw the speculation that Fulham could be linked to this player, I actually couldn't believe it because I have seen Bob play many times and thinking that this is a player that's going to be playing for Manchester City for years to come. One of their players that I'm going to be thinking of him like De Bruyne someday. That's where I saw Oscar Bob as a young player. And I'm thinking there's no way they're going to allow this player to go. No way. But then I thought to myself, they did this with Cole Palmer. Maybe, just maybe because they're obsessed with bringing in the best of the best. That's the reason why they brought in Semenyo, that now he becomes available. It's not because he's not a good player. Injuries are one thing. But I'm telling you, the ability of Oscar Bob is off the charts. The ability and the potential is off the charts. I was so excited when this finally got over the line. I think this is a very impactful player. The question is how impactful. So I'm going to ask you, how impactful do you think the Oscar Bob signing is for Fulham?
Fulham fans should be very excited about his potential and what he will bring. But obviously, you've got to put everything in context. And he's a player that Fulham fans are going to have to be patient with initially. You know, he's come back from a quite a serious injury, so he's not going to be as sharp and as with it as he was before he got injured at Manchester City. Look, full respect to Oscar Bob for making the transition and the change, because he could quite easily have sat at Man City, picked up, his extortionate wages and not played very much football. But ultimately, he's made the decision to think, you know what, I want to play. He believes in his ability. I think he's a great addition to the squad. I think we've signed a really exciting, I wouldn't necessarily call him a prospect, but I think that, if Marco Silva, if Fulham can get him fit and get him healthy again and get him playing with confidence, then he's a very, very exciting player. And I think within the structure of how Marco Silva plays, and the way that he wants, his wide players to play, I think we've got a really exceptional signing there. And I really, really hope that it works out for him, because I think he's a game changer. When he's fit and healthy, he is definitely a game changer.
Right. And that's kind of where I'm going on this, Tony. With all due respect to Emile Smith-Rowe. Okay, Emile Smith-Rowe might get there someday. But I think that this is another level. I think Oscar Bob has even more potential than Emile Smith-Rowe. I think he has more potential than Kevin. I'm going to say it right now. This player, I think at one point was on his way to being, like I said, one of the best with Manchester City, or in that could have that potential to be one of those players for them. So if he could be one of those players for them and they let him go because of circumstances, that just tells you how good he could potentially be. I think, as you said, this is an incredible game changer. This is a big deal for me. So, Hill, I want to get your thoughts. How impactful do you think the signing could be? I think it's massive.
I'm echoing both you and Tony. It's a really exciting signing. I think Bob was starting for City at the beginning of the season, which tells us something. Yeah, he was a starter, and then he gets injured. I think it's a really not only is it like an impactful signing for us, it actually, to me, it seems like he was talking to other people and they were singing our praises, like Breda Hangeland of all.
That's
people.
right. Talk about that. Right.
Thunderberg. Yeah, fantastic. But what it also does is, when people see Oscar Bob coming to Fulham, other players look at that and think, whoa, you know what? There must be something about that club that is worth going to. So it was a win-win on all sides, and a really good start to the transfer window. Unfortunately, it was also the end. But
right, it was.
I guess we'll talk about that in a second. But I think I'm very excited about this guy. I think he's going to be a real big player. 5.5-year contract. When have we given that type of contracts? It just goes to show what Fulham think of him. So yeah, both you and Tony are absolutely bang on. This guy is the real deal. I mean, we have to wait, as Tony says, because I don't think he's going to be the instant hit. But I think, just imagine after a full preseason with us, I think he's going to be dynamite.
And what's interesting about him, Suhail, when I watched him play, like I said, he has that flair. He has that ability. Again, we look at Kevin. I think Kevin's still going to come good, right? I think Emile Smith-Rowe is obviously an impact player, but this guy, I think, not only will score goals, but will just cause havoc to defensives whenever Fulham play. It's going to be a player that we haven't always had the ability to say this. I think the last time I could say what I'm about to say was when we had Mitro. There are going to be game plans to take when he gets to the level where I think he's going to be, to take him out, to take him away. You could say that maybe teams are doing that with Harry Wilson right now. The issue I think other clubs are going to have is stopping this guy. I'm telling you, I've already seen it. And I'm telling you, it's just a matter of when it happens. Tony says to be patient. I agree with him. But I think once he hits, it's going to be massive, and it's going to change Fulham. And I'm going to say right now, it could change Fulham as much as when Mitro came. And I know that's high praise and high hyperbole, but I truly believe that. That's how big I think this move is. So this is all positive, and I was very positive. However, with all that said, there was something lingering in the background. What else is coming down the road? Because I've talked about needing 3 players, a central midfielder and a striker. So then you have this whole situation with Ricardo Pepi. And Tony, I'll go right back to you. And I have to tell you, I kind of saw this a mile away. I could see this coming. I could see it building. First of all, how Fulham do their business. They don't give the best bid. They bid low, and then eventually they get to where they need to get to. But it took a very long time to get to the valuation that PSV Eindhoven wanted, okay? So let's now talk about it. I want to talk about Ricardo Pepi. And who is most to blame for Ricardo Pepi not being a Fulham player? It's an interesting way to look at it. Is it Fulham themselves not really being more aggressive early and just slowly increasing their bid? Or was this always a ruse by PSV Eindhoven to keep Pepi happy, appease him, saying, listen, we're going to do whatever we can if Fulham meet our valuation, and then we'll find a player? Were they doing what Fulham, I think, did with Paulinho, meaning they let Paulinho go to Bayern Munich, had an agreement in place, but they couldn't find a replacement. It was too short a time. They were just playing out the clock. I think Fulham got the clock taken away from them with PSV Eindhoven. We can blame Fulham, but I think Eindhoven played Fulham. What do you make of all this?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and it's a very interesting scenario for me. Obviously from the outside looking in, I don't think it's about a case of who's to blame. I think that it's an extraordinary amount of money to have a punt on a striker that, isn't, in my opinion, naturally prolific. I'm not 100% sure Marco Silva actually fancies this guy. And I think he wants to take his time and have a bit more of a look at him, see what happens. Maybe he will be at the World Cup. They'll have a look at him there and see what happens there. I'm just not sure he's the right fit for Fulham, Russ, is the honest truth. And to be honest, I'm quite relieved that we didn't buy him, is the honest truth. I'm actually quite relieved about that.
Okay, interesting.
There's strikers out there. I mean, you look at someone like Mateta at Crystal Palace. Where,
I know that fell through.
It fell through, but, why aren't Fulham looking at someone like that as an example? Because he would be absolutely ideal in the sort of, the way that we're set up and the way that we play. And he's exactly the type of player that we need. In my opinion, he's exactly the sort of player that we need. So, yeah, look, I think that a lot of it comes from the media. I think they hype these things up and they start to, jump on the bandwagon of that. And then obviously the frenzy starts and all the supporters get excited. But I never thought that this was a goer, to be perfectly honest. And I don't know, there's something about it that just thinks 35 million for a player that's, the highest level he's played is the, Premier League in Holland. I think it's a gamble. I really do. And his international record isn't great either. He's played 34 times for the USA and has only scored 13 goals. So he's not, and the Premier League, as you know, is unforgiving. So when you arrive, there's a massive expectation on your shoulders. And Fulham have signed too many of these players in the past in that position where it hasn't worked out. So I'm pleased that they've taken a step back from it. Review it in the summer, and let's see where we're at then.
Okay, so Steve Reynolds agrees with you. I've had these conversations with him. He has his doubts about Pepi coming to Fulham. So that's an interesting segue to talk about this because, like I said, I've watched him play several times. I thought at 17 years old that someday he'd be playing the Premier League. But I get the worrying that he's only played, like I said, in the Dutch league. What has he shown? He has not been prolific yet with the U.S. men's national team. I think part of that has to do with the U.S. men's national team. Anyone that's watched them, the way that they play, I don't think is great for strikers in general. But I understand where you're going on that. So if I had to basically get you down, who would you? So for you, you don't look at it as a blame. You look at it as more of relief.
Not relief. I just think that when you're spending that kind of money, and it's a position that Fulham have to take very seriously, by the way,
Yep.
right? You're going to have Raul, that's going to be another year older next season. You've got Munez, who's hopefully going to be back shortly, but it's going to take him a couple of months to get back up to speed.
Right.
And we definitely need another striker, but that striker has to be potentially one that's going to come in and play that role for years to come. So I think that we need to take our time.
Okay.
In the summer, a lot of players become available, as you know. The World Cup always throws up 2 or 3 players that suddenly come to light and everyone talks about and stuff like that. And I just think this is a position that the club have to get right moving forward, because it makes the difference between us. As I said, one of the differences in terms of us pushing on and becoming a serious contender, top 10, or staying where we are, which is, middle of the range and winning few, losing a few, and not really going anywhere.
Okay, interesting. All right. So, Hell, I'll go to you. What do you make of the situation with Ricardo Pepi?
Well, I'm more with you, Russ. I wanted him here. I was quite excited by the player. I think he would do very well in the Premier League. He's got a lot of pace, a lot of speed. I think he would have done well. What's interesting with this, though, is, and this is what I find a bit strange, is Fulham and PSV were sort of negotiating with him from the beginning of the month, at the very least. And then, better brother, thank you, Chris. A lot of taste. But by all reports, they started off, they were $1 million apart, apparently. At the end, Fulham offered more than what PSV were originally wanted. And that's what I find bizarre. So they obviously saw something in him, but why they would wait the way they did, knowing full well that there was going to be this thing coming up that, hey, we're going to lose him, we need to find a replacement. They must have known that was going to be an argument. It's another question you posed the interesting point. Were PSV serious about selling him, or were they just?
I don't think they were.
Yeah,
I actually think they were playing a game, just like I think they played the same game we played with Paulinho and Bayern Munich. They went through the motions and they basically said, you know what, we did the best we could. And they and honestly, I think that they were surprised that Fulham finally met the valuation, and I think that put them in a little bit of a pickle, Suhail.
I think you're right. I think you're right, because the way they behaved on all of this is bizarre.
Right.
And you finally get more than you asked for. That's what's being offered. And they still won't go for it. And by the way, I would not touch Mateta with a barge pole. Would not touch him with a barge. I think he's a bit of a disgrace the way he's behaved and treated Crystal Palace. They deserve better than that. So, you know what? You know what? I think they're talking about talks reigniting in the summer,
right?
Over Pepe. We'll see how serious PSV are then. We'll see whether because we will then hold the upper hand. We will say, look, there's lots of other strikers now. We're going to pay less for them. Why should we pay what we were offering you in January? Yeah. So, but anyway, you're quite right, Chris Mullings. That's my problem with Mateta. You don't behave like that to a club that's treated you really well. So,
right. I agree with that too. And thank you for sharing that, Chris. But my final thoughts on this goes to this situation where, I just don't think that PSV Eindhoven were going to sell him. I think they were concerned about making sure that Pepe was still on board, because I have a feeling, based on everything that's gone on, if I'm reading between the lines, Pepe wanted to come to Fulham. So to appease him, they went through this dog and pony show, as we would say here. That's why when I saw it last time, I'm thinking there's no way this is going to happen. They don't have another striker ready to go. This is going to end badly, and it's going to look badly, and that's exactly what happened. It looks bad, and it ends bad, but we'll see what happens over the summer. All right, guys, that's 2 down. So let's now go to this big topic, huge topic. So, Hal, I'm going to give you first crack at this, because this is the one that I really want to talk about. Did Fulham do enough in the January transfer window? Now, the easy answer when we're talking about 3 positions would be no, but I have an argument to say that they did because of what they got. But they certainly didn't get all 3 key impact players that I was hoping they were going to get. So I'm asking the question, did Fulham do enough?
I don't think they did. I think we needed a striker, and if they weren't going to get Pepe, they should have had a backup in mind to try and see us through this period. Because prior to yesterday, I suppose we still are seventh, but I just thought we should be aiming for Europe now. This is it. Don't do what you did last season, completely messing up by bringing in Willian. Bring in the big guns and get them ready to finish up the season. And so we don't go through what we normally go through, which is this big drop off in form. I don't think we did enough. And it's going to be, I think, equally, you talked about PSV's motives. You could argue, did Fulham do the same thing? Were they just trying to impress Marco Silva to say, hey, look, we've been going after a guy that you wanted or a big name striker and we didn't get him. It's not our fault. I don't know, but I do think we needed a central midfielder. We needed a striker. We got Bob, who I think is going to be incredible. But no, we didn't do enough in this January transfer window. And if Marco leaves, then I think people can look at this window and say, you know what, that was partly the cause.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind. We'll be talking about Marco next, but I want to focus just on the window itself. And Tony, as you can imagine, I am very happy with the move of Bob. But I do know that and I've said it time and time on this show, Fulham need to add, and I said, regardless, I still feel good about the end of the season. Okay, I'm going to make that perfectly clear. But the question is, did they actually do enough with the other two positions? Because they didn't get them in. So is it an easy answer? What are your thoughts?
My thoughts is that all round, we haven't done enough in the transfer window, full stop, from the summer to now. My take on it is that at the moment, ironically, I think we do have enough going forward. I think we've got enough quality in those areas to really give, and we've shown it. We can give any team in this division a game of football. Right. We're very explosive going forward. We've got great options. We're fluid. My biggest issue, Russ, is we haven't got enough defensively. And that will be that is going to be our downfall this season. That is where Marco Silva should have and needed to strengthen in this January window. And I don't care what, Fulham fans can disagree with me. I know Suhail will disagree with me. I know that there's thousands of Fulham fans that are going to disagree with me. But ultimately, our defenders at the moment, bar Cuenca, possibly, and he had a stinker yesterday, by the way, but bar Cuenca, and maybe Tete when he's fit and everything else, our defenders aren't good enough. It's as simple as that. Bassey's not good enough. Anderson's not good enough. Diop's not good enough. Those defenders are not good enough. That defence as a collective and individually are not good enough to take this football club where they need to go. That's my opinion. That's what I believe. And the stats show it, because last two seasons, we've dropped off after being in great positions, and we're now in a really good position. And I don't think, even with the quality that we've got going forward, and I believe we do have that, we don't have enough defensively. And that is going to be our downfall.
Okay. So I understand where you're going on that. Listen, you and I have talked a lot about Jedi recently. I don't know what's going on there, but he is certainly not the same player right now. And I'll make the argument right now that your better left back is Ryan Sessegnon defensively. And I truly believe that. So defensively, you have a strong argument. But if being honest and talking about the players that I wanted in the three positions that they were targeting, they weren't even targeting any defense, and maybe that's an issue in itself. But for me, the Bob signing is massive. I think, and again, the Mitro signing was a loan signing. This is a full-on signing, and I think this is going to be more impactful than Emile Smith-Rowe, more impactful than Kevin. I think this is going to be a game changer for Fulham Football Club. I hope I'm not wrong. I'm putting a lot on pressure on one player, but I really truly believe in this one player. So I think for that one player that it changes a lot, but I'm kind of on the fence. I'm doing what your brother does. I'm on the fence here, Sahel. I'm like, well, I'm playing both sides. Well, I wanted the other two players, but impactful, I have Bob. So I am kind of doing a little bit of a Kamala, which is ironic, but in some ways, I think they did enough because they brought in this impactful player, but I cannot deny the other two positions. All right. That's why I wanted to have a discussion on that. You guys ready for probably the biggest talking point, I think, not just in this show, in any show that we've done for a while? It's this one. Let's do it. Do you think Marco Silva's going to walk at the end of the season because of the transfer window? He got Bob. I'm pretty sure Bob was his. I think some of these players this summer were his. Will he walk? This is just your opinion. We don't have any knowledge one way or another if he's going to go. Did Fulham do enough to keep Silva, or is this the last straw because they only brought in Bob in January? So let's get to it. Tony, do you think he's going to walk?
Unfortunately, yes, I do. And the only thing that will stop him from walking is if Fulham win the FA Cup this year. That's the only thing that will stop him walking. We're not getting European football in the Premier League. I'll pretty much guarantee that. I just don't see it. We've got a chance of winning the FA Cup, and if we win the FA Cup, that is a route into Europe, and I think Marco Silva will stay. But if we don't get European football this season, I think he's gone, and I think Harry Wilson will be gone as well, unfortunately. That's the way I see it playing out.
Okay, and I have a lot of people, and I forgot to mention Harry Wilson too. Could he be gone too? So we can talk about him along with Marco. So it's an interesting one. What's interesting, Tony, before I go to Suhail, the way Marco was talking, it sounds like he was in lockstep now with ownership. I was told that they had a board meeting, probably sometime in November, where they had basically got on the same page. So does that change anything? Is the mentality any different now, even though they only got Bob? Do you think something changed there, or do you actually think that no matter what, he's gone?
I think he's hedging his bets, Russ. And I think, ultimately, look, we all know what Marco Silva, is very experienced, and he wants to show his worth and proof with a top six side or a team that gets into Europe, because he's ambitious. There's no question about it. Ultimately, I don't understand, with everything on the table and where we are, and the club have obviously backed him to a degree.
Yes.
There's nothing stopping Marco Silva sitting down tomorrow and signing that contract. Absolutely nothing. So what is he waiting for? That's what the question that needs to be asked is, what is he waiting for? What is stopping him picking up that pen and signing? It's crystal clear. Yep. Anybody that, can sit there looking at, obviously we don't know everything, but he's waiting to see where Fulham finish at the end of the season, where he takes this team, what position they're in, and obviously what other jobs become available, above Fulham or outside of Europe or whatever, Champions League, whatever it might be. And he will hedge his bets right up until the last minute. That's what I believe. And that's the reason why nothing has happened yet. There's nothing to stop him signing that contract.
Okay. And listen, I'm seeing the comments. They go along with everything that you're saying. So would have signed if he was going to sign, same as Harry Wilson. So I don't know about this. There's a big part of me that would agree with you, except just the way that he was talking, Suhail. I'm actually gonna go against the grain. I'm gonna say that he's gonna sign a new contract. I'm gonna go against this because I think he was impressed by the Bob signing. Now I know people are already commenting, that I'm making too much of the Bob signing. Fine, but I think that really showed some kind of intent from the Cons that they were willing to do that. And I actually think he's going to sign a new contract. And I think I'm in the strong minority. I think he's going to sign it. I think Harry Wilson's gone, though. But I think Marco is going to stay. But to Tony's point, I think he might wait a little bit to see how we do at the end of the season. But I have a feeling he's going to stay. The grass isn't always greener, even for him.
I don't think it's as clear cut whether he's going to stay or he's going to go, because I think the last factor that Tony identified is probably the strongest factor. He's looking to see which other jobs are available. Yeah. Because where's he going to go? People are talking about the Spurs. There might be an interest from Spurs. I don't think Spurs are going to look at him they've taken so much flack over Thomas Frank's appointment. They're not going for a sort of middle range manager anymore. They want some world beater. Yeah. So sorry, Chris. Chris Goodwin's with Spurs. I don't see them going for him. I think he's waiting to see. I'm with you in it to an extent, Russ. I think he's been impressed by what Fulham tried to do.
Right.
But I don't think it's clear cut. I think if one of the top 6 came for him, he'd go. But I don't think they will now. I think the only 2 teams that would have been there would have been Spurs and United. United, it looks like they're building a statue to Michael Carrick after 3 results. They're in orgasmic form there, aren't they? It's bizarre. Whereas Spurs, as I say, they're going to look for a big name manager. Thomas Frank has been such a disappointment. You should see some of that. When you look at the fans' comments about Frank, do you think Silva's going to get any more applause from Spurs fans who think they're entitled? They think they should be winning the treble each year. There's no way that they're going to go for him. So
don't get Tony started
on that. Sorry,
Suhail. By all accounts, and this is the interesting one for me. And I'd like to know what your thoughts are. Eddie Howe is under pressure at Newcastle. Big pressure at Newcastle, right? He has spent an absolute fortune there. Yeah. And the owners, by all accounts, are not happy with, obviously, that they are a sinking ship at the moment. Now, that's a position that Marco Silva could well be interested in. And I could see a club like Newcastle going after him. Right. What do you reckon on that?
Yeah, I agree. That actually is a very interesting point. I mean, after the weekend's result, I'm sure they would be. I'm sure Eddie Howe would be under some pressure. And I agree with you. Newcastle is one of those. They're not quite top 6, and they're not looking for the world beater. They don't have that sense of entitlement yet. You're right. That could be a danger. Whether he wants to move up north is another issue. But yeah, I mean, you're right. That's the one club that might be problematic. But I don't think it's about. I think it's all about whether he thinks he can get a better deal elsewhere. And apart from Newcastle, and even that, I'm a bit sort of skeptical of. I don't think any of the top 6 teams are going to touch him. So that's my view.
Okay, I'm just going to share some more comments. We got a ton of comments, guys. And again, we have 358 people watching live with us. So we have a ton of a live audience, which is great. And I want to thank everyone for joining us. We haven't even talked about the match yet. Well, we're going to talk about it. Guess what? I have some interesting topics before we really break it down. And this one, I think, starts us off in a very. It's gonna set Tony off when I post this. You ready, Tony? Here we go. Could there be some kind of bias with VAR decisions? Now, I'm gonna share this, okay?
Don't hold back, Tony. Don't hold back on this one.
No, I'm gonna share this this tweet that I saw from Jakob Krupa. I don't know if you know Jakob Krupa is a Fulham supporter, but he shared this. I wasn't aware of this. I saw this actually in a group chat, so I'm going to share this because I didn't know the extent of this. So this is from Jakob Krupa yesterday, Tony. It says, Fulham have been involved in more VAR decisions than any other club. And of the 12 interventions, 8 have gone against them. Fulham have 5 goals disallowed through a VAR review. Highest for any other club is 2, Tony. Okay. Is there a bias? Now, I'm not saying that it is a bias. We're not even talking about refs. We're talking about the guys that are making the decisions with VAR. Is this a subconscious bias that they're looking at it and they're factoring in who's playing against Fulham? Is there something going on here? The reason why Fulham have had so many calls go against them. So I'm asking you the question because we're going to talk about that decision when we break down the match. It still boggles my mind. What are your thoughts about this?
We could do a whole show on VAR, Russ. Right? Literally, look. I just want the beautiful game back to where it was before this nonsense was introduced. It's not VAR. What people need to understand, right? It's not VAR. The technology is fine. It's the imbeciles that are running it. It's the incompetence of the clowns that are running it. That is the problem with VAR, right? Football is a sport. It's not a science experiment. And what it's come down to now, what we're looking at, what we're seeing every single week is they're trying to get this perfection, right, over the spirit of the game. And all it's doing is it's alienating people. People are switching off. It's killing the game. And there is definitely an urgent call for this system and for the people running it to be reformed. And it has to happen sooner rather than later, because it's causing disillusionment, across the board, not just at Fulham. And we've just been unlucky this season with some really shocking decisions and shocking situations. I think it is, I don't think it's bias. I think it's bad luck. Yeah, but you can't microscopic every single decision. I mean, yesterday, the goal's ruled out because he's
Tony,
elbow.
where's the 5 centimeter rule? Where's the 5 centimeter rule?
But where's the advantage with an elbow? It's absolute nonsense. Football is a game that needs to flow. It's spontaneous, right? And currently that is being completely strangled out of the game. It's taking 3 to 4 minutes to make a decision. You're sitting there. That's not the beautiful game that I grew up with, and it's not the game that I want to see. I just want to see the game back to how it was. End of story.
Okay. Over to you, Suhail. Is it a combination of bad luck and incompetence, or is there something else going on there?
It's what he said, basically. Yeah, no, Tony hit the nail on the head. It has sucked the soul out of football. I mean, it's like, you've had some of the hammy end boys on here, and they talk about the fact, I think Matt sort of said he doesn't know whether to celebrate or not when a goal goes in, because you don't know whether it's going to be overturned. It has completely sucked the soul out of football. I don't think there's a bias. I just think there is, as Tony said, the way it's being implemented it just is completely irregular. And what happened yesterday, I don't know if you want to talk about it now, where Cuenca takes the ball off Cunha, and that was I am convinced the referee pointed the spot because of the tackle. That's what I think he pointed the spot about. Had nothing to do with the shirt pulling outside the area. And when VAR gets involved, it's supposed to be looking at what the referee did. Did he make a clear and obvious error? What did they do on this one? They say, oh, no penalty. That should be the end of it. No penalty. They say, oh, but you could give a free kick if you wanted. That, I think, that is not the point of VAR. I'm sorry. That's not they're effectively re-refereeing a particular situation, and that is not what should have happened. So that's where I think Tony bang on. It's the way it is being implemented that's the problem. And we've had terrible decisions. The Josh King one is going to stand out all season. That's the one that everyone remembers. But there have been others, and that the one that really got to me was the Chukwueze when he was deemed offside, when Emile Smith-Rowe, not this one, but when Emile Smith-Rowe scored against Crystal Palace, because that was a game-changing moment. There's a sliding doors moment in that game. Things like that really bother me, and I'm happy if they abolish VAR and we have mistakes. I'll live with them, because I know that at least when I see the ball go the back of the net, I can jump up in the air and say it's goal, as opposed to now where, as Tony says, we've got the perfect error-free game at the cost of just watching something flow and enjoying the feeling and the pleasure of a goal go in. Anyway. There you go. That's a long answer.
No, very good, very good. And I understand where you're both coming on that. So I was going to do one more topic, but just for time's sake, I'm just going to mention it because I think the answer is that it could definitely be. Could the defense stop Fulham from getting into Europe? Tony, I don't even have to ask you. I know what the answer is. Suhail, quickly, do you think that could be the difference here?
No, I don't agree with Tony on the defense. Sorry. This is the rough and the smooth now. This is the rough and the smooth.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
Bring it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I think we've got a pretty good defense. I think Joachim Andersen's an excellent defender. He had a really good game yesterday. Cuenca, despite having what Tony calls a stinker, he basically was like everywhere. That Joachim Andersen chance, I think it was like early on in the game where the keeper got his hand, or Andersen stuck his foot out. That was Cuenca knocking the ball back. I don't think our defense is problematic. What was problematic yesterday was that Anthony Robinson had the worst game I've ever seen in a Fulham shirt.
One after another.
And Calvin Bassey, for some bizarre reason.
We'll talk about that,
We'll talk about that, but he should have just basically chopped the guy down and he let him run. So anyway, I don't think the defense is the problem. And just remind everyone, we were playing at Old Trafford yesterday. So we've got no God-given right to win there. We've got every right to expect that we're going to be under pressure. And and we'll talk about the goals, because I don't think the goals, certainly not the second and third goal, that wasn't the fault of the back four. We can identify where that came from. So anyway, there you are. That's my take on it. I think our defense is good enough. I just think we need to get back into form there.
All right. Good stuff. All right. Let's get to it. Coming up next, we're going to break down the match. We're going to talk about the controversial moments. We'll talk about the goals and unfortunately how it all ended. And we'll end with man of the match. All right, Tony, I'm going to start with you when we talk about the first half. Before we talk about the VAR decision, we're definitely going to talk about it. We're going to break that down. Before we get there, what did you think how Fulham started? I thought Fulham were dangerous, but there was no cutting edge the way the match started off. I would say that Manchester United was okay, but they looked like they had more cutting edge than Fulham. That's how I thought the match started. Before we talk about the VAR decision, what did you make of the first half?
I think Suhail was absolutely correct. I thought that you go into Old Trafford, we gave a very good account of ourselves. We were competitive. We worked hard, and ultimately the game ebbed and flowed, and there were chances and openings for both teams. I think at that level, Russ, when you start to break it down, you do have to analyze the areas of the pitch where we show our deficiencies. And unfortunately, what I meant to about Cuenca yesterday is he had a bit of a rough day. Not that he was appalling, because actually I thought when Silva took him off, that cost us the game. Yeah. Ultimately, I don't understand why he took him off at that point. I can understand bringing on Bassi, but don't take off Cuenca. Right. Go to a back five, keep it compact and change it. So I just think that, for the first 20, 25 minutes, I think Cuenca had some quite rough moments and difficult moments, but I think he was unsettled by the fact that you hit the nail on the head with Anthony Robinson. He was so bad yesterday. I mean, abysmally bad, that I think it unsettled the other three. I really do. And I think that it was more about why we were exposed at times. I think that in transitions, we were slow to react at times yesterday, especially after, we conceded the first goal. Fulham then felt that they had to push forward in search of an equaliser, which then left us vulnerable on the counter at times. Our shape at times became quite stretched between the lines. And that's when United's attackers, Fernandes and etc., started to exploit us a little bit. But I think Marco Silva addressed that at half time. Yeah. And obviously we know what happened in the second half. But that was my sort of view on it in the first half, is that we were in the game and we were still competitive.
Okay. So, Tony, I'll go back to you because I had Suhail talk a little bit about the VAR decision. Then, Suhail, I'm going to go to you to talk about giving up the goal to Casemiro. So I unfortunately, I'm giving you the honors for that. But I want to just talk about the VAR decision. I think this is what's maddening to me. So he gets the ball again, as Suhail already talked about. We've already mentioned this, that this should have been just about the challenge that he thought he took him down. And he obviously got the ball. We're talking about Cuenca. And the hand fighting was outside the box. But the part that I don't get, Tony, is why did they go back to that when it was ultimately about the situation? Was it a penalty or not? That's the part that's upsetting to me.
It's a diabolical decision. I mean, there's no other word for it. Look, and the thing is if you watch it back, the Lino, the assistant referee, is standing, literally 15 yards away from it. Obviously, he can't see the shirt pull. But, if you start giving free kicks for every time a player pulls a shirt, I mean, it happens all the time.
They were doing it to each other, by the way.
The referee has given that decision because he feels that Cuenca has got the man before the ball in the penalty box, right? As soon as that goes to VAR, they look at it and they see that Cuenca clearly wins, clearly touches the ball. End of, ball down, Fulham back in possession, off we go. I still don't understand how they've come to that decision, how the referee's then gone back on and gone, right, okay, well, yeah, there's a shirt pull outside, so now it's a free kick. I mean, they make it up as they go along. And you're sitting there thinking, that is the most diabolical decision that I've ever seen. And, we can come on to the fact that obviously Fulham then need to defend that situation far better. But the bottom line is it should never have been a free kick, Russ. So Fulham should not have been in a position to have to defend that situation. That's the thing that kills you.
It is. It totally is. And then, Hale, I agree with Tony. Fulham shouldn't have been in this situation, but they were. And then you have Fernandez, who just a perfect ball to, unfortunately, Casemiro, who wanted it badly and puts in the back of the net. What did you see here?
Yeah, no, I mean, first of all, it should have been a corner. And if it had been a corner, I don't think they'd have scored. But Bruno Fernandes, I mean, whatever you think of him as a person, and that was a lovely free kick. He just lobs it right over our centre backs, and Casemiro out jumps. So, in fact, I didn't see Cuenca jump. Casemiro just came straight up, nods the ball into the net. You couldn't argue the effectiveness and the beauty of a goal. But, as I say, the real story about that goal is why was a free kick given? We're right at Edom on that, Tony. Should have been the end of the story. Once they said, no, it's he got the ball first. That's the penalty decision taken care of. Move on.
Like you say, then it's a corner. That's it.
It's a corner. Yeah, and they wouldn't score from that like that. That was just a perfect position for Bruno Fernandes to put the ball into. Anyway, quite sad.
Okay, it was, and obviously it changes the game. Let's say what it is. It gives them the momentum, which I don't think they deserve, but they have the advantage, and they go in the half up 1-0. Tony, before we talk about the second half, and I want to talk about the second half in detail, do you think maybe Marco should have made any changes, or were you happy with the team he was putting back up?
No, I thought we were doing okay. I mean, the only change I would have made is get Robinson off and bring Sess on at that point, because I thought Robinson was having an absolutely, I mean, he got rinsed yesterday by Ahmad. Ahmad absolutely destroyed him yesterday. And just for his own, peace of mind and confidence, I would have said, you know what? There's something clearly not right with Anthony Robinson at the moment. Clearly something is not right. And there's no point me sitting here trying to guess, but at the end of the day, my left back needs to defend. He needs to be strong in a tackle. He needs to make sure that players don't get round him. He needs to stand up to challenges, and he needs to stop balls coming in. Anthony Robinson is doing none of those things. Something is not right with him at the moment. So Marco Silva needs to take him out, and they need to, look at what's going on with him. Put Ryan Sessegnon back in there, because when Ryan was playing in there, we looked so much more solid. He's so much more aggressive in that position, and he knows how to defend. Yep. So that's the only change that I would have made at halftime, Russ.
Okay, taking him off and brought in Sessegnon. I was actually thinking of that too, so I get that. All right, over to you, Sahel. So let's talk about the second half before we talk about, unfortunately, the Cunha goal. And I'll give Tony the nod for that, because I gave you the Casemiro. I have to be fair. So I'll let him suffer through talking about
Sahel can talk about that. It's fine.
No, Tony. I really
no. That's okay. I gotta be even. I
believe in equality. Total
equality. I have to be equal. I have to. I have to equal the pain, Tony. The pain has to go equal. So let's now talk about the beginning of the second half, Suhail, because what really was disappointing, I thought Fulham started strong. You had the free kick from Harry Wilson. It looked like Fulham were going to get the equalizer.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, that was a great free kick as well, and a great save from the keeper, but Lamana. Yep. But they did start strong, and I thought I was surprised, like Tony, that Sess hadn't come on, because I thought the way Robinson was playing was that he was injured somehow and he needed to be taken off. But that didn't happen. But Fulham upped their game. No two ways about it. And it's ironic that the second goal, which Tony's about to talk about, will basically sort of almost against the run of play, really, the way they sort of penned us back in. And I remember the commentators saying something like, Manchester United need a bit of pressure on the ball now. They need to sort of keep the ball, because Fulham are beginning to push forward. So I do think if we'd scored, if that Wilson goal thing had gone in, we had the momentum at that point. And of course, it all went sideways, really, when Cunha puts the ball in the back of the net. Over to you, Tony.
Okay. Oh, wow. He goes right over to you, Tony. Okay. So let's talk about Cunha's goal. It's a no-look pass. I can't believe I'm saying this, from Casemiro. And you talked about this with me after the match, that Fulham should have been more ready for situations like this with Cunha, because he does this a lot, and he's killed Fulham. So let's talk about the goal.
Yeah, the funny thing is we well, not funny now, but we talked about Cunha before the game, and we said, he's that sort of player that if you give him time and space and let him run in between lines and don't track him and don't pick him up, he will cause trouble. And because of his qualities in those areas, if you give him the opportunities, he will score goals. He did it for Wolves against us at Craven Cottage. He's got a habit of doing it, and he's a good player. At the end of the day, he is a very, very good player, and you can't give him time. The goal, from my point of view, came because, again, from our transition from defending into midfield is not good enough at times. And, what we did yesterday, we were too open in key moments after losing possession. And that is what gifted Manchester United that second goal. When you look at when Cunha's put through there, Cuenca and Robinson positionally are all over the shop. All over the shop. And also, the question is, where the hell is Sander Berg?
Yeah.
Where is he? He's meant to be protecting the lines and protecting the back four in those situations. He's nowhere near it. He's complete. So it was a really poor goal to give. Although he took it very well, it should never have happened, because Fulham should have defended that situation far better than they did.
Okay. Can I just add something on that, Russ?
Go ahead.
Go back and look at that. You may remember after the Tottenham game, I was on the podcast, and I said, I don't know why Fulham, the players, don't have this ability just to smack the ball down the length of the field if they're penned in. Go look and see what happens in the 2 minutes before that goal. What happens is they're trying to play it out to other players. Iwobi, I think, puts it to Chukwueze. He can't control the ball. It goes back to United. We win the ball back. Robinson then, instead of just smashing the ball up the field to allow us to come out, he tries to play it into the middle of the field, and a United player gets it, and that's when the goal occurs. It gets to Cunha. I've no idea why they don't just, at some point, someone just says, you know what, to hell with this. Let's get the ball out of our half. We can regroup later on, and that's what led to that goal. So it really, really angers me. I get so annoyed when I see that happen. Anyway.
Okay. So now Fulham are down 2-0, and this is really a test for the club. And Suhail, you already talked about this. This is usually when you return the match. You're like, I've had enough. But this is a different Fulham team, and I thought to myself, it's not over yet, which is kind of unusual because Tony, you and I have talked a lot about their resilience. So you get that, but still it doesn't come off because you have the disallowed goal by Cuenca. So I want to go back to you and talk about this whole situation. I think the most annoying part is how long it took. What did you make of this whole situation with the disallowed goal?
Yeah, it's hugely frustrating because, again, yes, by the letter of the law, it's offside. Okay, you can't argue it. But I'm going to the point, and it's again, you're talking about his elbow, right now, and you're talking about the fact that he's still 20 yards from goal. So please tell me where the advantage is with a player having his elbow slightly out. It's absolute nonsense. And this is the part of the game. This is where VAR is killing football, Russ. It's just killing the game because, there's still another phase of play, even two phases of play before Fulham score. Yeah. So, and they've penalised him from having his elbow there 20 yards from goal. It's crazy, but by the letter of the law, the way it is, it's offside. So we just have to, we have to suck it up. But it's crazy.
It is crazy. It is. And you're thinking at that point, Fulham have more than enough time to get the second goal. So that is a gut punch. But again, interesting, as we're talking about, Suhail, this is a point where I think other Fulham clubs teams would have folded or heads dropped. Didn't happen here. Kept going forward and then created an opportunity, and you get the penalty through Jimenez, and it was the right call. Let's call what it is. Harry Maguire, you took him down. It's the right call. And there was no question in my mind, Suhail, that he was going to score. He has never missed in the Premier League with Fulham on penalties. So what did you make of the situation and the goal?
Right. There's a lot to unpack here. So let's just go back a little bit. You may recall the pass was put through by, I think it was Sander Berger. That's what set beautiful through ball. But if you go back a minute before that or 30 seconds before that, Berger gets the ball from Tom Kearney. And I advise everyone that's watching, if they can, to go back, because he produces this delightful lob that goes over a United player straight to the feet of Berger. And then he puts Jimenez through. Beautiful, beautiful goal. It would have been a beautiful goal if Jimenez scored. Now, can someone explain to me why Maguire's only shown a yellow card? Because isn't he the last man?
Yeah.
And that's a goal-scoring opportunity. And if it's a penalty,
Steve Lydiard is a ref. If you're seeing this, Steve, could you please comment on this? Okay,
yeah,
go ahead.
I have no idea, because when I saw that, I thought, United are down to 10 now. And of course, it was only a yellow card, which makes no sense to me. No VAR check on that one, of course. Now, when Raul Scott, I think he's now got the record, right? Consecutive penalties in the Premier League. He's gone to 12. It was Cole Palmer that could have had it, but he missed. That was, what a penalty. Have you ever seen one like that? Where the goalkeeper was trying to, they were playing bluff with each other.
Yeah.
The stagger, the run up, and both of them are looking at each other. And Raul thinks, oh, hell with this. I can't be bothered. And he just smashes the ball into the top corner. Great penalty taker. He'll go down as our best penalty taker now, I think, because I've just not seen.
I thought it was going to be Danny Murphy, but he's better.
No, he's better, and I've never seen a guy who, when he steps up, when we get a penalty, you just think, okay, we've scored. That's how I feel now. He is just so good at it, and this was a beautiful example of how someone can change his style without waiting. He just thought, you know what, F you. I'm just putting it into the thing. That's, by the way, that's a colloquialism. Sorry, anyone who's offended, it's a colloquialism. So no, I think he just, to hell with you. I'm putting this where I want to put it, and smashes it into the net. Great stuff.
Okay, very good. All right, so this point it's 2-1, and Tony, I'm gonna give you the honors, because the show should have been about what we're gonna talk about next. It should have been about this player getting his moment that might change his season and his career at Fulham. Okay, we should be focusing on this, but it's unfortunately not really the full story. It's part of the story. Let's talk about Kevin's goal. This is why they brought him to Fulham. This is what he's capable of doing. This is what we should be talking about. This is what the show should have been about.
This is what is so infuriating about yesterday, because you're absolutely right, Russ. Today should have been talking about Kevin's moment. Finally, he's come alive in a Fulham shirt and did what we've all seen him do at Shakhtar Donetsk every single week, pretty much.
That's right.
Cut in, bend it into the top corner, and that's the quality of this kid. This is what he's got, and it should have been a great moment for him. An equaliser, coming off the pitch, rescued a point for Fulham, and everybody should be talking about this moment. But it's almost like it's been forgotten because of what happened, a minute later. But look, I think you've got to credit Marco Silva here, because again, he brings on Ryan Sessegnon and Kevin on 71 minutes, right? And I think those two changes, and then he brings on Tom Kearney about 7 or 8 minutes later. I think those three changes, taking off Smith Rowe, Chukwueze and Robinson, actually got us back into the game massively. And he would have been sitting here thinking, you know what, Marco Silva's made 3 unbelievable changes again, changed the game. His in-game management, superb. Because the way that Sessegnon and Kevin link up down that side, I think is a no-brainer for me. That there's just so much quality and control, and Kevin just seems to be able to go and express himself, and he did that in that moment. He did, and I mean, it was an absolutely beautiful goal, sublime, absolutely beautiful, and it's just a shame that we're not talking about it being a point and what an amazing moment it was for him. But I'm pleased for him, and hopefully that's the first of many good moments that we're going to see from him moving forward.
I hope so. I really do, because I think this was a very meaningful goal, but it's getting lost. It's getting lost because what happens next. I'm sorry, Suhail, I'm giving you the Sesko goal. I apologize, okay?
That's all right. I just hope Tony remembers this, that I was the one who ultimately got screwed on this particular.
Okay,
that's what the rough is all about, Suhail.
Okay, let's do it, Suhail. I've talked to Tony many times. You've already talked about
Yeah.
should have taken him out. Calvin Bassey.
Yeah.
When I saw this situation, I'm thinking, just stop him. And it didn't happen. The defending here is terrible, and Sesko puts it in the back of the net, and it ruins this comeback. So
No, it was a great finish. Let's give Sesko credit.
Yeah, it was.
A great finish. But I think that was almost entirely down to Calvin Bassey. I think first the way he allowed himself to get turned so easily was just ridiculous. And then when he's running, he must realize, you know what? If this guy gets a crossing, because the United players are streaming forward, we're going to be in trouble. So take one for the team. Just sort of bring the guy down. You're going to get a yellow card. You're not going to get a red for that. You'll get a yellow, and that's the end of it. What does it matter? But the way it all went round, and then I don't blame our defense too much. I think they were just caught stretched because of the way Bassey was turned on the halfway line. And they were going from an attacking position. They all had to start running backwards to try and stop it. And it was a terrible goal to concede. The timing was awful. And Tony, you've spoken about Kevin. From the TV cameras that I saw, he was devastated when that goal. They were pulling in at the camera was panning round to all the other players who were looking, really, really miffed. But Kevin looked devastated. He looked absolutely devastated by it all. So, and he felt the way we felt, like we were just absolutely floored by it. And what can you say about it?
Yeah, it's terrible because, like I said, we're talking about this moment from Kevin. We're talking about the resilience. We've talked about this a lot from Fulham, and I'm thinking more positive about the club. Everyone is. And you get this sucker punch at the end. It's just terrible how it ended. But I'm glad that Tony mentioned this. In a lot of patches during this match, Fulham played well, and I think they equal to Manchester United at Old Trafford. I that is going to get lost in all of this, but I don't think it should be. I don't think it should be at all. And I'm glad that Tony mentioned, because we've been critical of Marco. We have to give him praise when he deserves it. He changed the game. He changed the game back to Fulham. So credit to Marco Silva, because I want to be fair, positively and negatively when we do this show. All right, guys. Normally, I think about this a lot. Should we do a man of the match? I want to do a man of the match here. I definitely do. And I'm going to tell you who I'm giving it to. I have to give it to him. I'm giving it to Kevin. Yeah. Because for everything, the struggles that the guy's been through, obviously he's trying hard. He's in a new country, dealing with a brand new situation, under a lot of pressure. The amount of money we pay for him, it's got to be weighing on him. And I'm so happy he scored that goal. My man of the match is Kevin. Tony, how about you?
I want to give a special mention to Raul, because I think, not only did he earn and convert the penalty to make it 2-1, and like Suhail said, it was just a nonchalant penalty. Like he eating Sunday roast. Do you know what I mean? It's like he could do it with his eyes closed. It's unbelievable. The amount of composure that guy has in those moments is incredible. And also, I thought he was a constant threat in and around the box yesterday. And I always say it, Russ, he's got the hardest job in our team, because he works so hard for very little reward. How many times did we get him in the 18-yard box yesterday and put crosses in from wide areas? I don't think we did it once in 90 minutes. I don't think we gave our centre forward one opportunity to feed off from wide areas. Yet he still keeps going and keeps giving his all. And I think he deserves a special mention. But I think I'm with you. I'm with you. For me, Kevin, what a brilliant impact he did coming off the bench. A wonderful effort to make it 2-2. Should have been a great moment for him. And as I said, hopefully gives him the confidence to kick on. And we're going to see more of that.
Okay. Suhail?
Yeah, I think the jury's unanimous on this one.
Wow.
Definitely
you got a unanimous jury.
Yeah. So the verdict. We said the verdict. No. The thing that I think people should remember as well about that goal was Kevin started the move. He picks it up, passes, has this lovely 1-2 with Cess, and then curls that ball. The joy I felt when that went in, not just for the fact that we'd equalized, but for him, the fact that it was his goal.
Yeah.
And he runs over to that corner flag, and he is just ecstatic at that point. That's why it's sort of the United goal that came afterwards is so depressing. But no, definitely Kevin. I'm like Tony. I think this guy, this could be the moment where he really begins to shine. And as I've said in previous shows, since Mitrovic left, and Paulinho, we don't have players that frighten the opposition. But I think Kevin, Chukwueze, and Oscar Bob, they're going to be those players. Wilson's there at the moment, but I have my doubts about whether that form is going to continue until the end of the season or beyond, because he wasn't that great yesterday. So my take on it.
No, that's actually a good point. All right, guys, great show. We've gone over time, so I do want to wrap this up. I want to thank Tony and, of course, Suhail. It's the rough and the smooth. When they do a show with me, it's the rough and the smooth. And it came off very well, and I enjoyed every minute of this show. So, Suhail, I'll go to you first. Final thoughts before we wrap up the show.
When you look at it in hindsight, there are plenty of positives that come out of the game. I know we lost, and it was in a really, devastating manner. But Kevin's first goal, Raul's new record as a penalty taker. We came back from 2-0 down against United to equalize, even though that didn't last very long. Lots of positives. We played well. I think there's lots of positives, and just remember, we have players coming back. Tete was on the bench. Yep. He may well be back in the next couple of weeks. And Muniz is returning this month. There's a lot to be positive about. Let's just forget. What I do is I'd watch the game again and then switch it off after the Kevin equalizer and pretend we drew the game. That's how I would handle that. So
okay, Mr. Gold. Final thoughts from you.
Final thoughts, Russ. Yeah, look, it's our two most exciting games this season: Man City at home and Man U away, and we've come away with nothing from both games. But no, look, yesterday, I think I'm absolutely spot on, Suhail. Yeah, look, there were good moments yesterday, and I just think that small margins at this level, it's small margins. It always is small margins. You can't switch off. You can't lose your concentration levels. And we switched off for one moment, and we got punished. And you will get punished at this level by those sorts of teams. We've got to bounce back against Everton. I believe at home we can with the qualities that we've got in the final third, we've got a very good chance of getting back into winning ways and kicking on. So I'm optimistic about it, and looking forward to putting that right.
Okay.
And we'll see Oscar Bob maybe for the first time.
All being well. Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see Oscar Bob. And listen, I just want to thank both of you. This has been a great show. Sometimes after a loss and after a disappointing end to the transfer window, doing a show actually is therapeutic for me. So I want to thank the two of you. Everyone that watched live, we're about to sign off. And there are 637 people watching live with us. So I want to thank everyone that has spent their time with us. And yes, Chris, I'm with you on this score prediction. I'm just going to put this up here.
Yeah.
Chris, I'm with you.
I'll fly to Toronto for hell if we win 5-0.
Yeah.
Chris, if we win 5-0, you're coming on the show with Tony and me. You have to come on. You have to come on. We have to get you on camera. You have to come on. Okay. All right. Well, listen, this is again just a great show. I'm lucky to do it with everyone that does it with me. Thank you guys. But it is time to wrap this up. For Tony Gold and Suhail, I'm Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk, part of the Talk Sport Fan Network.